Pivoting is so important in business. It puts us inside of a space where we recognize that even as we're growing, all of the steps don't always align. And when we realize that it's okay for us to do a little turn, to do a razzle dazzle, to fall over and stumble at times, it's still okay because when we're supported by family, when we're supported by friends, and when we are supported from within with the confidence that we need, it's the inevitable that we will continue to succeed. So Miss Beautiful Dee Dee is here and she's going to share her story, many of her stories about how she is the queen, the artist of pivoting. Dee Dee, I'm so excited to have you in here today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, yes, yes. So, of course, we're talking about how you went from nurse, school nurse, family business, all in the midst of COVID, which seems like it was kind of just yesterday, but
I know.
now time has flew by. Tell the audience what stands out to you the most when we think about pivoting.
Um, Pivoting, I think, is something that's just been essential to me and my career in general. As a nurse, we like things organized. We like to, check our boxes, but then something happens with your patient last minute and you have to think very quickly and you have to learn to prioritize your patients and your time and what you're going to do. So it's something that I think we learned more about along the way, but it's definitely important to learn to pivot and to think on your feet. And sometimes something's not working business wise or what have you, and you need to do something else. My daughter says I always have a plan B, C, D, and E. So, sometimes with her, her college life has not exactly gone like she wanted it to because her first year of college was COVID and she had to come home. And then she decided to change colleges and majors. And so I'm always like, well, just go do something else. Change colleges. If something's not working out, well, then that's not meant for you. We need to pivot. What's your next step? What's your next plan? And it's just something that I've kind of followed in my career. I think I told you previously, one of my favorite quotes is blessed are the flexible. They shall not be bent out of shape. Because if you're so rigid in what you think you want, that you can't see that you might need to turn because maybe that wasn't meant for you
Yeah.
or the way you're trying to do it is not going to work out. So you need to think to do something different. So pivoting is very essential.
Yes. Ooh, you said a point that I know a lot of people hear all the time, but I think it's important that we dive into it, which is whatever may be happening that's not working out, it simply may not be meant for you.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you still can't see the same goal through, but if things are kind of like shaky or rocky for you at that time, there has to be a lesson and a blessing in the scenario. And so, can you talk to the audience about how it is so much more powerful to see the obstacles as lessons versus seeing them as a loss?
Definitely. I mean, nothing is lost, nothing is wasted. A lot of people start one degree and then they feel that it's not for them and then it's time to change and they're nervous about that. But I think learning what's not for you is just as important as learning what is for you. And I feel like what is meant for me is a door is going to open for that. And if that door is not opening, then that's just not meant for me. So, you can keep beating against the door, or you can decide to maybe go around it and go a different path and do something different. And that's still okay. And it might take you longer to get there. And you might have to take some detours, but I think you're still going to get your final destination, but you're maybe going to come out richer because you've had more experiences and you've learned more along the way and you're going to carry that with you and how you interact with other people with grace, how you understand different people in business and where they're coming from or in life in general.
Yes. Ooh, so good. I'm so ready for you to share this story. I just was thinking about it. Can you tell the audience about how you went from regular nursing, and then once you and your husband had a conversation, then you end up in school nursing. And can you tell them about like the different pivots that needed to happen in reference to how one opportunity offered more money and the other one didn't, and how you had to consider that and how it all fell in your lap?
Oh, yeah. I was working for a cardiologist, and the position of school nurse opened up. And it was the first year that they were putting nurses in schools in Effingham County. And my cousin actually sent me an email and said, "Hey, they're putting nurses in the school." And I thought, oh, great, because my son was in second grade. And she said, "No, you should go apply." So I did. And it was not really something I'd ever considered, but the opportunity was there. And I was like, well, that would be kind of cool to be at the same school with my son and have less hours, be working closer to home. And I went in for the interview, and the money was not good. The money was not good at all, but it was a starting point, but it was a lot less than I was making working in Savannah. And so I went home to talk to my husband, and I basically thought, it's not going to happen because the money was so much less than I was making. And he said, well, wait a minute, let's think about this. Because for him, it's mostly, would this make you happy? Because if it makes you happy, we'll just figure it out and God will provide and we'll find a way. And so we thought about all of the pros, getting off earlier, the days off with him not having to be in prime time or after school care or somebody to watch him during the summer, but mostly my amount of time with him because I felt like I was missing out on a lot of time with him with travel into town and that kind of thing. So I took the position and I ended up being there 19 years, and they did come up on the money some, but it ended up just being so wonderful. I enjoyed working with small children. I had my daughter the second year that I was working in the school system, and I stayed until she graduated. And then I think at that point I was ready for something different. And so I retired from nursing and became an entrepreneur, which was really scary and something a lot of nurses don't do because you usually work for somebody. But I was just ready to do something creative and something different. But it's funny because even though we made less money, I really don't feel like I missed out on anything, and everything still seemed to work out like it was supposed to. So it is funny how you can get by with less and still feel like you're coming out with more.
Oh, yeah. Because I think a part of it that a lot of people, as they are growing their business, because that's really how I came up with the concept of the podcast title, was there's a creation and then there's a growth period, right? So a lot of people feel like they know the purpose that God has given them over their lives, right? Like you said, you knew, your daughter knew, nursing is it. But there's also that growth phase that is so important to know that the trials and tribulations they will come. And sometimes the trials and tribulations are not based inside of the business. Sometimes those trials and tribulations are in our hearts or in our value system where we have to question and say, even though you have the potential to make X amount of money, will you feel better about the type of mother that you're showing up as, the type of wife
Right,
that you're showing up as? And that is very true still for the same thing with entrepreneurship, because then as you grow in that realm, at first you may not even be making as much money as you did easily
right.
in the business. So now you're not only faced with that obstacle, then you're still faced with the how do you learn how to turn off work? How do you learn how to find the balance? How do you learn how to maybe be a better leader than the leaders that you had in the workplace? Like all of those obstacles still come in the midst of having your business and leaving your job and going through those phases. Can you tell the audience about how even when you were working, how your husband like built what you needed inside of your garage for you for like a different
Oh,
business
yeah.
that you had?
Yeah, I always had something creative, some creative outlet on the side. So even while I was nursing, I became a photographer and I started a little photography business. And my husband literally took our garage and closed it in and made a storefront and had a front room with an office for the customers to come in. And then the back room was, the black studio, everything dark so you can control your lighting. And he basically just built that for me, so I'd be happy. Just having something fun to do, something that was for me. He's always had his hobby on the side, racing cars, building cars, and that's a family thing for him, a passion that, comes from his great grandfather and on up, his brothers and cousins, everybody does it. And so for me, my creative outlet was photography for many years. And so I would work during the daytime. I would do photography some afternoons or on the weekends. And even then, trying to balance how much time I was spending on one thing versus another. And I would decline offers for photography if I felt like it was really interfering with my family time,
Yeah.
because I really wanted to protect my family time. And so, yeah, sometimes the offers were coming in for bigger shoots and to be busier. And I really could have probably done photography every day and all day on the weekends. But at some point, you have to remember your balance
Yeah.
between this is fun, this is my family, and this is what's important. So I have to take care of that first. And, we had talked about the mom guilt. And I went through that a lot when I was working full time and I was going back to college. And my son was, younger. And I said, I just don't feel like I'm being good. I'm not giving anything 100%. I feel like I'm not giving my marriage everything I can or my child everything I can. And when I'm at work, I'm distracted because I feel like I need to be studying. And when I'm studying, I feel like I need to be cleaning and doing laundry. And so you you can do it all, but you can't do it all at one time. And so a fellow coworker nurse gave me really good advice. She said, you just have to be 100% present in where you are in the moment and let everything else go because you can't be there doing those things while you're doing this. So while you're at work, your focus is just to be the best nurse possible for that patient. And then when you're in college, when you're in your classes, your focus is I'm a student. So I give this 100% right now. And when I'm home with my child, I'm 100% mom. So when he had me, he had all of me and not just me that was thinking of all the other things I need to be doing. So when you think about it that way, you can give everything 100% in the moment and while you're there. And then you can fully appreciate that time and kind of let go of the mom guilt of I have to do everything to everybody all at one time because we feel like we need to and we know we can, but we really just can't do it all at one time. So it's good to prioritize and kind of let go of that mom guilt.
Oh, yeah. See, it's the art of pivoting. You're just giving
Yes.
it to them right there because you're talking about pivoting like in the moment at the different phases of life because I know that there are women who are listening to this podcast episode and will think, well, my baby's only 3. My baby's only 5. They won't notice that I'm not there that much, or they won't notice if I put all my energy into school and the different I'll just make it up to them when they're 18 and they want to go off to college and I have their college tuition fully paid for. But what you're doing is you're bringing us back to the now to say, don't try to assume what you think someone or your children or your family significant other would feel in the future. Just strive to pivot into a better version of yourself now in the moment with the
Mhm.
positive expectation that God will work everything out how it's supposed to be in the future.
Right.
Mm.
Because we wear a lot of hats. I've been caregiver for my children, but I've been caregiver for my parents.
Yeah.
And I've had to be a caregiver for my grandmother because my mother had Parkinson's and she couldn't take care of my grandmother with Alzheimer's. So I've had to do a lot of caregiving within the family, and it is hard to balance work with those things. And, my husband's philosophy is if somebody needs you, you just close the doors and go. The store, the business will survive when you're taking care of the things you need to take care of. And part of owning our own business, it comes with a massive amount of responsibility. Anybody that's had their own business knows you have to invest a lot of yourself into it, a lot of thought, a lot of planning, a lot of implementation. but also the freedom that this is my business and I do kind of make the rules.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself of that sometimes. So if you need to go because another priority is calling, then that's just what you need to do.
Yeah.
And it'll be okay. And I have had to do that. I have had to close the doors and go home and take care of my mom and do things like that. But I know that that's the priority for me as the caregiver of my family for those types of things. Being the nurse or being the mom, I don't know, but anyway, I'm always in a caregiver mode. And then now my daughter, she's in nursing school, so I couldn't have done a lot of that without her. She was there taking care of my mom, and I think a lot of that helped her inspiration with nursing. Originally, she was going to get her PhD in psychology, but then she changed her major to nursing, which is something I always thought she was going to be. But, she had to pivot and learn those things for herself. And now she's almost ready to graduate. It's right around the corner, and she's so excited. And it's funny because she said, even after all of the obstacles and the road bumps, she feels like she's exactly where she's meant to. And so she couldn't see that then.
Mhm.
And I even told her, you might not see why this isn't working out now, but eventually you will.
Yeah.
Eventually there'll be a realization when you're like, oh, this is why I'm here. This is why that happened that way. We don't always know those things in the moment, but usually they reveal themselves to us in that moment of realization that this is where I was supposed to be after all.
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful. That was so, so good because then it actually made me pre-think because I was already thinking about it, but then you confirmed it. The question about how did you know and like how does it make you feel to know like you have that family business, that you have the ability to have the women in your life and even your husband in a different type of way, of course, because I know you
Mm-hmm.
didn't talk about how he built onto your shop, but how does it feel to know that because you pivoted in these different ways and poured into your children in the right way, was the example of caregiving, but also caregiving for yourself, not just overextending yourself for everybody else, but also nurturing yourself to the point where now you're a beautiful example that your family wants to be a part of your business and they want to support you and they want to do everything they can to help you grow. How does that feel?
I mean, it's a very humbling and amazing experience because I feel like everything you pour into your kids, it just comes back to you tenfold. And, I look at them now and I see just the successful, happy adults that they are. And, something my daughter brought up about going to college, that kind of thing. She said, for me, I just thought it was the next thing after high school. It was never in your terminology that if you went to school, it's like, well, after high school, you go to college. Just like after elementary, you go to middle school. It was just the expectation for her. But um, certainly it had to be something they wanted. And I knew that it was, but I just always put the positivity into them. You can do this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work at it if you want it, but you can do it. The only person stopping you is you from doing it. You need to discipline yourself. That was something I told my son his first year of college. He could have lived at home, but I said, I actually want you to live on campus because I want you to have the go away to college experience, but I also want you to learn the responsibility of managing your time, getting yourself up, feeding yourself. You don't need your mom coming in and saying, you do your homework. And I think that later made him just so much more independent and successful. And, our family's always just been big supporters of each other and our dreams and what we want to do. So it is so nice when I go to an event and there's my husband driving the truck full of what I need, and he's out there running around helping everybody. And it's just, oh, if we're doing something, it's like we're all jumping in and kind of doing it together. We're a team. And that's just the terminology we've always used. We're just always there for each other. They know that I'm there if they need me. And so to know that, my husband is so supportive. I've been very supportive of, he's had his business for 25 years. And when he first thought about going out on his own, he was very apprehensive. I was extremely optimistic. Oh, yeah, you got this. You can do it. I had absolutely no qualms about it at all. I was like, you'll be great. You'll be great. And so I was really encouraging and pushing. And he was like, well, okay, yeah, I got this. Whereas if I was apprehensive, he might not have jumped out and done his own thing, but he did. And he's been successful and he's been happy. And that's what matters. I mean, if he wasn't happy with it, then we would have done something different because the bottom line is you want to have a you want to have a good income for your family, but you also need to have some fulfillment and happiness in what you're doing, or you're just not going to be able to do it. You're not going to have the same passion for it. So I think it's important we all kind of figure out what makes us tick and what makes us happy with that.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of ticking, how did we go from nursing to everything soapery? Like,
Right.
what? Let them know.
Well, I've always had a passion for skincare. I've always loved everything bubbly and fragrant and fun to use, but my skin didn't always like everything that I used commercially, what was commercially available. And my daughter and I having very sensitive skin and having psoriasis, that led me to kind of ingredient reading, looking at all the labels and what's going on our skin, because I think it's just as important what's going in our body and what's going on our body. And I just decided to kind of play around with making some things. And my first thing was bath bombs. We're going to make bath bombs. And, I was like, oh, I watched YouTube. I got all the ingredients. My best friend was there. We're going to make bath bombs. And we spent the entire day attempting to make bath bombs. We did not have one successful bath bomb at the end of the day. And that could have deterred me, but it compelled me. I was like, I can do this. I know that I can do this. I've watched other people do it. So that just pushed me or motivated me to do more research because that's just kind of the way I work. I have to know how it works and then I want to try to do it. And so I got into making soaps, and then that led to lotions. And now I have head to toe products. Everything for from your hair down to your toes, we make. And I love that when customers come in, sometimes they'll ask me if I can make something particular. Maybe they're allergic to a certain ingredient. So I reformulate. Because formulating to me, that's what motivates me. I'm very interested in looking at a product and how to make it better. Even my own products, I was constantly reformulating in the beginning. So I was like, I can make that better. I can make that a little better. And then, until I settled on what I felt like was a great product. Lip balm in particular, I reformulated my lip balm probably 4 or 5 times until my daughter went, don't touch it. I love it just the way it is. This is the recipe. So we kind of stuck with that. And I was like, I really do love it. It's silky. It doesn't tug at your lips. I love it. I think from nursing, my knowledge of science and your body and your skin, a lot of that helped me make a quality product that I know I feel good about using. Um, my daughter said, you take really good care of your skin. Even, you make all of this, but I watch you like taking care of your skin, taking care of yourself. And I just think it's important. My mom always took really good care of her skin, usually only just wore lipstick, and
Hmm.
that was it. But yeah, so I think from nursing to skincare was kind of a good transition for me. And then it helped fill that creative outlet for me. So I
Yeah.
can make things that are cute, pretty, and nice to use.
Ooh, that's so good. I want to double back to a few of the things you said. Ever since I've met you, you just say some good stuff, and I know you just feel like you're just talking. We talked about that on the on the pre-recording when we spoke the first time, but you're
Mm-hmm.
totally one of those queens where
Oh,
you're talking and it's like, okay, Brielle, remember this, remember this, because it's the goodness. A couple of things. So first, you talked about the concept of reformulating, right?
Hmm.
I think that can be applied still to pivoting because one may think that they have the formula of their life all figured out.
Hmm.
But how can I say this? There's a fine line between reformulating and then getting caught in the rapture of perfectionism,
Right.
right? So can you help the audience break free of reformulating to the point where they're having analysis paralysis and perfectionism?
Yeah, I think sometimes we get so focused on this is where I need to be and this is where I
Mhm.
want to be that, and it may not be. And so when it's not working out, they feel very defeated. Instead of learning, like we were saying, learning the lessons as you go and using those to maybe pivot and change what might be better for you. Sometimes we just get so focused that we lose our flexibility.
Mm.
And it's important to be flexible because, like they say, it's not the destination,
It's
it's
the journey.
it's the journey. And there's so much to be learned in the journey if you just open yourself up to those learning moments. I mean, we're always growing. None of us are perfect. So I think, perfectly imperfect is a really good
I
description.
have that tattooed on my
A
side.
D. And I love that because I think some things are just perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes somebody will come in and if a bath bomb's not perfectly round and they're like, is anything wrong with this one? I was like, no, it's just perfectly imperfect. It's going to work the same. It's going to feel the same on your skin, but sometimes the humidity affects the way they set. And maybe
Yeah.
they're not perfectly round, but they are handmade and we're not machines. So everything is not going to be exactly the same, but we try. But I think we really need to let go of that perception of
Ooh,
perfection
yeah.
because it is, after all, just a perception. And everybody's perception is different. I have a little story. I was at the outlet with my niece one day at an event, and a family walked by. And you're just seeing them for the few seconds they walk by. And the son's pulling the daughter's ear and the mom's yelling at the dad. And you can just tell they're just having a really rough day as they walk by. And you just kind of go, oh, been there, just having a rough day with the kids. And then the next family walks by and they're all smiling and hugging and put together and just look so happy as they walk by. And my niece said, I want to be like that. And I said, well, hold up. Because the family that was looked like they were having a meltdown probably walked around the corner laughing and hugging each other. And the family that looked so perfect probably walked around the corner and the son hit the daughter in the back of the head. You're seeing a glimpse. You're seeing a few seconds of somebody's day. So you might have caught them in their perfect moment or their imperfect moment. But your need to compare your life and your family to that, you're comparing yourself to a glimpse.
Yeah.
So just focus on you and your family and your moments and, the comparison of what you feel like you need to look like and you need to be like. Who is that for?
Yeah.
Other people or for yourself? So you have to, focus on you and your happiness and your moments and stop the comparisons.
Yep. It goes right back to the concept of reformulating,
Hmm.
right? And like I said, you just gave so much goodness, of course. And again, the concept of like pivoting in the moment, because
Hmm.
when you're young and you're immature, I just watched a YouTube video yesterday about women feeling like how marriage is a scam. Some women, like, it seems like that's like the culture right now. And a lot of what they were saying is that when you're young and you have like rose-colored glasses on, you really don't see the truth of the trials and the tribulations that marriage comes with. So then
Hmm.
when you are 18 years old, you may still feel like, oh my goodness, I just want to get married. Not even seeing like it's important to know the characteristics of yourself, the values that you have. It's
Hmm.
important to be in alignment with the characteristics and the values that that person may have. But when a person is 16 or 18, again, rose-colored glasses. They're just seeing a glimpse of what marriage looks like. But then when someone turns 25, they're a little more keen, a little more aware of all the
Hmm.
responsibility that comes with marriage. When you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, when you're
Right.
going through life, you're able to then see situations that not so much of a glimpse, but
Hmm.
like reevaluating your value system. It's the same way in business. Many people see online that a lot of people have like success, or it seems like they're overnight successes. So when they're trying to start their business, they're basing a lot of that off of, oh my goodness, look at her. She has like the bubble buzz, and I want to have that as soon as I start out. And I only want to start if I can have products for myself that are from head to toe and they need to be perfect. I need to have my labeling. And it's like, but you don't know what Miss Dee Dee has been through. You
Hmm.
don't know that she has, again, taken her experience from not only being a nurse, but also having children and going through the experience of seeing that her daughter's skin is being irritated from this. The nights that she may have cried because she maybe didn't know at that time how she could stop her daughter from being itchy. Like you said,
Hmm.
going through the day where you was with your friend and you're making bath bombs, and none of them turned out the way you probably thought that they would. It's all layers. But if we base our happiness, our success off of a glimpse of
Hmm.
what we see that somebody else has, how do you really expect to grow?
Right. Yeah, we started small. I started with a very tiny store originally, and we mostly had soaps, lotions, bath bombs, lotion bars, and candles. And so just a few products. And then, I wanted to grow from there, my imagination kind of creating different things. And so it didn't take long before my little store was full, and my husband was like, we need to make your space bigger. And then the idea for the buzz, I actually saw, it was at the Southern Women's Show, and a lady had a clothing boutique, and she had what looked like an old bread truck. And so they got to go in and shop in that. And I said, but most of her things she kind of pulled out. So it was like an accessory to her booth. And I said, I would love to have something that I can just stock and it looks like my store on the inside and pull up, but have the air conditioning so my products aren't melting and that kind of thing. And so that kind of grew. I mean, we bought an old church bus, we renovated it. It took several months to do it, but it was a vision. And then it took time to create that vision. So everything we did was, little baby steps growing to becoming, what we are now.
Mhm.
And there are other things that we've done along the way. I've had products in lots of other stores. I think at one point we were in at least a dozen other businesses, and that started becoming really big and a lot to keep up with. And so I actually scaled back from that. At one point, before we did our renovation and made the store bigger, we were talking about maybe moving into Culver, Savannah, and leasing a place. And my husband even said, if you think you'll have more foot traffic, if you think you'll have more business doing that, we can do it. Let's look at a space and think about renting space. And then I thought about it and I said, it would kind of take away everything that makes this special,
Yes.
which is being here with them every day and having our family business together and working somewhere where they dictate my hours. If they want you open at 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving, you got to open at 6 Thanksgiving. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. I want to
Yeah.
be with my family. So, we kind of scaled back from that. I've had offers to go in larger stores, Target and that, to sell on Amazon. But, a lot of that would entail having a warehouse and tons of employees. And we kind of changed the business from what it is now. Not having everything as handmade and local, it would be more industrialized. And that's what I wanted to stay away from.
Yeah.
So, as much as you're growing, I think you also need to kind of think about what is the important to me, what makes this, my happy place, and to kind of keep it in that. me to keep it pure from its original, concept.
Yes.
So because you can grow, but is it the growth that you want? And
Yes.
if it is, then I say go for it. But if it's not, and it's not going to bring you the same level of happiness, it's okay to stay where you are. It's like school nursing. I could have worked at other jobs that, I could have travel nurse and went all around and had tons of experience and made a lot of money, but I wouldn't have had the time with my kids.
Yep.
The time with my kids was more important. But I still wanted to have a career and I still wanted to have the income. So finding something that was a balance for me, you know, and what's for me might be different than what's for everybody else. So I have to remind myself that's what makes me happy. That's what makes my family happy. And as long as we're good, everything else is good.
Yes. This was this, oh goodness, this was such a wonderful chat. Oh goodness, this was such a wonderful, wonderful chat. And I would like to take a moment just to summarize some of the goodness that I got from this. Because if I try to summarize it all, Miss Dee Dee, I'm just gonna have to repeat a whole another 30-minute podcast. Gosh. What I got from the wisdom that I obtained from you just now is that it's important to remain clear in the moment about what growth looks like for us on an individual basis. And it's also important to have our priorities in order at the different phases of our life so that when we don't grow so big and then have to chop down branches and trees to try to get back to our original self. I've
Mm-hmm.
also gained from your wisdom that it is important for us as a woman that while we can pour and care and give to others, whether it's our family or whether it's inside of our job, it's also important for us to stay rooted and stay grounded with our truth and to keep that connection from within to know what does happiness look like and striving to be clear that happiness is not always equate to a dollar amount. While that is important, being clear on what happiness looks like for us in the different phases. And again, not growing so far that we lose track of the sincere happiness and
Mm-hmm.
not being so attached to like temporary instant gratification and remembering kind of like not to chase this shiny object syndrome,
Right. Yeah, because
right?
it can be tempting, when you get a call, we can get you a warehouse and we can get workers and we can, or we can take over your bottling and packaging and formulating. And I'm like, but that takes me away from my product.
Mm,
And so, I don't want to lose the roots of what makes us different and makes us special, because then I just become another mass produced product on the shelf and you lose quality, I think, with that.
yep.
So, yeah, it is important to think about what makes you happy, what your priority is within you and for your family, and to just kind of stay true to that.
Yes. And being inside of a space too where you love what you do, right? I looked down at my notes to make sure that I had that part written down, that you love what you do and that you find happiness in that, and that you find happiness also in pivoting, happiness in the lessons, happiness in the phases and the joys, especially as a woman, if you have children, to know that you're the example for your children. So if we show them the example of mommy always in hustle mode, mommy always just doing it for the dollar, mommy just staying like that, that we can't really be surprised when our children grow up and they don't want to live next to us. They don't want to be
Right.
attached to us. They don't want to be part of the family business. They're like, oh, I saw you stressing now. You're bald
Hmm.
headed, not by choice. Because now, definitely bald headed by choice. But you're like, Mom, your hair is falling out, and you're scratched, you're on 15 different medications, and it's because you were inside of the building, inside of the business. That's not going to attract the family to want to follow in your footsteps in any way, shape, or form. But if you, again, stay present in the pivot, ooh, that's probably what we should have named this podcast episode.
Present and the pivot. I like that.
You made me think of it, so it's
I
yours.
like that.
staying present in the pivot allows you to really, it's the transformation. It really is. It takes you from trauma to transformation if you're present in the pivot.
Yes, definitely. Because I know, like you were talking about marriage, I've been married 38 years. So I have been with my husband since I was 16. And then, naturally at 16, like you said, you look at lifelong in one way. But it's funny, as much as you think you love that person at 16 and 20 when you marry them, um, that love becomes so much deeper and
Mhm.
richer when you go through the hard times. When you know that no matter what, we have each other's back, and neither of us are perfect, but we've learned that, what we have is so special and so important that we protect that no matter what. But going through, losses of family members and being there for each other, supporting each other through business and changes in our life, and just knowing that no matter what, we've got each other's back. And, the same for the kids. They know no matter what, I'm going to call mom or dad because they're going to come get me, or they've got my back, or they're going to have an answer for me,
Yeah.
or they're going to be my soft land when this doesn't work out. They know that. My kids know that emphatically. And, like talking about our kids living near us, we've bought a lot of property with the sole purpose of I want to give my kids something for their future. To me, that was very important, the roots for their future. And when my daughter was talking about, well, this is where I'm going to put my house, I said, well, I want you to really think about that. You and your husband, your fiance now, I said, y'all need to really think about, do you want to live here forever? And she said, I don't think you understand the stress it takes off of me to know that I'm going to get to raise my kids, that you're going to be right down the street. When, they're all in my hair driving me crazy, I'm going to tell them to go to you and you're going to have the cookies or whatever, and you're going to give me the peace. And so, and my son and daughter-in-law, they live in Florida, but they've been talking a little about moving back home because career took him to Florida, where they ended up. She actually lived here back home, but she went to Florida with him. And, the career took him there. But, I think family always brings you back home. But, they'll do what they need to do in their life. And they know that if they want to come home, it's right here for them. They
Yeah.
come home a lot anyway. But my daughter, she's so funny. She always said she was going to move away. She was going to go live in Paris. She wanted to go away to school. And she said, I always thought all my life that I wanted to just, she does want to see the world. She said, I always thought I wanted to like live away until I went away to college. And I didn't like it. And I
Mhm.
wanted to come back home because home is where I was happy. And so that's when she changed colleges and all. But, I gave her the freedom, whatever you want. I don't want you to live life with regret. So, the worst thing is to not have tried it than to always sit here and wonder, what if?
Yeah.
So do it. There's nothing holding you back. Jump in and do it. If it doesn't work out, it just doesn't work out, but it was a lesson. And so, that was a lesson for her. Go to college. That wasn't really what I wanted, but I tried it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come back home and I'm going to change things. And so it is important when we set that example for our kids that, I was flexible and I changed things and I didn't break, I bent.
Yep.
And you can do the same. So we, when they're so tiny, we're always setting those examples whether we realize it or not. And like you said, you can't wait till they're 18. Something you have to be feeling in them their whole life.
Yes.
Positivity, the flexibility, but also the roots. Like a tree. A tree is flexible and it's going to bend and wave, but its roots are deep, so it's not going to go anywhere.
Yes. Oh, Miss Dee Dee, this podcast episode was so good. I was just about to ask you right there at the end if you had any final words, but you just gave it to them.
That was good.
So good. Of course, I'm going to put it inside of the show notes, but I saw on your website, so I would love for you to share. Can you tell them about any up and coming events that you may have coming up that they could stop by and attend? Can you let them know where the bubble bus is going to be at next time, where they can come into the shop at?
Oh yeah, we have an event coming up. Let me look. October, November 22nd, Saturday, November. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. We have our hometown Christmas event here at the store. So we'll have lots of local handmade artisans, vendors, a food truck, DJ, a big inflatable for the kids. We always have a lot of fun. We're going to be at Folks and Cooler.
I shop there a lot.
Yeah, they have their big Christmas event coming up on the first Saturday of December at Folks and Cooler. So we'll be there with the Bubble Buzz. We're going to be with the Brunswick Garden Club, but that'll be a private event in November.
Okay.
Let's see. November 21st is the showing of Wicked at the Mars Theater in Springfield. And so they're going to have this whole Wicked event going on. And we're going to have very Wicked specific products for the night. Everything pink and green. And we're excited about that. So they'll have a lot of vendors and games and fun activities. I'm sure people are going to come in costume, and then they'll have the showing of Wicked. So it looks like it's going to be a really fun night.
Oh yeah, you have like a November jam-packed
I
event.
do. We have a lot of November things going on.
That is so good to hear. And then also for listeners that may not live in the area, but tune into the podcast and say, because this is actually a truth. I have people that literally live all over the United States, outside the United States. So whenever I talk to them, I always tell them that I'm from Savannah, and they always say, I love Savannah. I'm coming to visit Savannah. I can't
Hmm.
wait. So even though you're on the outer skirts of Savannah, not too far, can you let the listeners know if they are coming to Savannah to visit or to Pooler? Because fun fact, when my husband and I went to New Jersey one time when we were traveling over the road, when he was driving 18 wheelers, we were in New Jersey and a lady asked us where we were from. And when I told her we were from Savannah, she said, Oh my goodness, I visited Pooler. That was the first time in my life I ever heard anybody say,
A pooler
like, what? And she's like, Yeah, I went there and we spent the whole weekend. I'm like,
and pooler.
Pooler?
Why didn't you go to Savannah or
What?
Tabby?
Yeah, but I realized like Pooler is now like a whole thing now.
Yeah, anytime I tell anyone where I'm from, we usually just say, oh, we just live in Savannah, or I'll say we live just outside of Savannah. We're on the outskirts of Savannah. But yeah, we have a website and we ship all over the country. I think
Mhm.
we just had our first order last week from Arkansas. So I was like, oh, who are they? But I had one lady, they ordered from New York and they came to Savannah and they bought one of our products that locally made on Broughton Street. They
Mhm.
bought a beard oil. And when they went home, her husband said, this is better than anything I've ever bought in New York. So now, all the way in New York, they buy our beard oil down here in Georgia. And likewise, I've got lots of customers from that store because they come in shopping and they're coming from all over traveling. So that's been kind of a good resource for me to get products out nationwide. We have a little bit of a section in like the middle states that we haven't had orders from yet, but I mean, we've gone all the way to Hawaii. And so it's always exciting when I get an order from a new state. We have a map on the wall and
I
we go
was just
color
about
that
to say
state
that.
in.
You have to get like a map and start to plug it in so then you can like target in 2026. Okay, we haven't got Wyoming or North Dakota
Right.
yet.
I even had someone I used to work with at the school, so she's over Girl Scouts, and she sent it to the Girl Scout troops to share with all the other Girl Scout troops and said, let's see if we can fill in your map. So they were trying to send it to
Great.
other scouts, like, hey, this is, because I do a lot for the scouts. We do a lot of support for our local community, the schools, the ball teams, the bands, and things like that. So we're always very good when it comes to supporting our community. I feel like that's a big part of what we do.
Yes, that's so beautiful. Let the people know, okay, you're on the outer skirts of Savannah, but like which part?
Well, we're located in Effingham County.
Mhm.
So we're just outside of Chatham County, just inside of Effingham County, and it's called Bloomingdale, but it's technically Thoughtville. And I know that sounds so confusing, but it's because Bloomingdale delivers mail and Fayetteville does not. So we have a Bloomingdale address.
Hmm.
But you know, I say if you're heading to Pooler, you just head down Highway 80 a little bit further, and we're right down the road.
Oh, this was so good, Ms. Dee Dee. I thank you for coming on the Create and Grow Your Dream Business podcast. I
Thank
know
you.
for a fact that you have inspired someone listening to do the same thing and to be inside of a space where they know that they can have creation mode, but you have surely helped them see the art of pivoting.
Well, thank you. I hope I've inspired other women. I think it's important that we lift each other up and support each other wherever we are in that process of becoming whoever we're going to be. That we know that we have people we can kind of look up to or listen to that have been there and support each other along the way.
Yes, you truly have accomplished that goal. If that was your goal for today's podcast, you really have. So, until next time, listeners, as always, I'm truly appreciative to be inside of a space where I can help you create and grow your dream business. And if you know that you need help with your personal and your professional confidence, remember the doors of my Business Confidence Academy are always open. Just click the link inside of the bio. And if you're ready to shop with Miss Dee Dee as well, you surely will see the link inside the bio for her products as well. So until next time, listeners, we'll see you later.